right, it is day 2 at the annual World Economic Forum in Davos, and that is where Team South Africa is on a mission to secure yet more investments for the country. Among the delegation is the Development Bank of Southern Africa, which is a funder of many public-private projects. Let's speak to our business editor, Xolani Mbanjwa, who is there for us. Xolani, I know that you're about to have a conversation with the DBC or DBSA chairman. Perhaps the question to be asked here is, South Africa, with the many challenges it faces, you can name them: load shedding, the infrastructure bottlenecks, crime, corruption. Is South Africa, Team SA, able to put together a cogent story that is compelling enough to come back with bags of investment? All right, I doubt Xolani Mbanjwa is able to hear us. I suspect he may have lost the connection to us. Xolani, are you able to hear us? Okay, all right, I'm told. Okay, I can see with the signal that you are able to talk to us. I know that you're about to have a conversation with the DBSA chairman, but quickly, the problems that South Africa faces, they are well documented. I don't have to take you through them, but the nub of the question is whether South Africa's story is compelling enough for the team to come back with bags of investment.
Team South Africa is here for the 20th year in a row. So it's quite an important question indeed, and from the engagements that I've seen, there is a huge interest on Africa's most industrialized nations, and there are many different people from South Africa, from different organizations such as the DBSA, which is a development finance institution, and there are big companies, big corporates that are based in South Africa that are here to tell the South African story, besides government and civil society and those who are in academics. And of course, just like you've said, I am joined by the chairman of DBSA, and that is Mr. Ebrahim Rasool, who's also here to engage with potential investors and the global community and to sell South Africa's case. Mr. Rasool, thank you very much for your time this morning. Let's talk about the engagements thus far when it comes to your engagements and your presence here as DBSA. What is your role?
Look, the DBSA, the Development Bank of Southern Africa, is one of the huge continental players on the continent. They particularly engage in development finance, particularly in infrastructure, and by and large, we should be here. Because if this is where investors are looking for safe destinations that are profitable and that are meaningful and can open up economies, particularly of Africa, then the DBSA ought to be within that conversation, together with government, together with the banks that are here, the commercial banks, and many other entities that I think are here for the same purpose. How do we secure investment, but how do we precondition that with the overall theme of building trust? How does South Africa become trustworthy again on the global stage? And that's the case we are coming to make here.
What are the questions that investors are asking, that they want to know about South Africa, that they can't look up themselves? They want to hear from you a convincing argument why they should plow their money here.
Look, I think that investors are asking, are we leaving behind a terrible decade in which trust eroded in South Africa? And I think the constant answer is we're not completely out of the woods, but we are by and large out of the woods. And that is in keeping with the theme of building trust. And the second question then is, are there bankable projects? The third question is, are we integrating fast enough within the African economy. So we've just come from a wonderful Bloomberg's hosted forum this morning in which the temperature outside is -12 degrees, but you could feel the atmosphere warming up towards South Africa and Africa because there was only standing room left. And that's the level of interest in this case, because investors are also looking for new destinations. The old Western countries, the northern countries are saturated. They are flatlining in terms of growth. Africa is rising in terms of that, and that's what we are here for, to provide them with assurances of the rule of law. We are here to provide them with the strength of our institutions. We are here to provide them bankable projects. And those bankable projects are in the area of infrastructure, skills development, logistics, soft infrastructure that is required, and a range of profitable endeavors that they could be engaging in.
Let's talk about the projects, some of the projects that you are involved in, and one of them is with Transnet. You know about the problems, the logistics problems that Transnet has had over the past 2 years, industrial action as well as hacking, as well as many other issues that have been bottlenecks for development in South Africa. You are working with Transnet right now, trying to help them find partners. Tell us more about that.
So the one thing is that the DBSA is not in the business of bailing out. We are in the business of building forward. And so, for example, we need Transnet to become the preeminent logistical mover of goods in our country. So we will invest in the corridors that open up rail again, and that can get things from point A to point B efficiently without undue interruptions, without road closures or anything like that. Rail is that, and we are putting some of our money there, like a cheese in a trap, so that we can catch something bigger. And what we are saying is, our confidence in Transnet's future ability to unlock the logistical potential on our continent is such that we put some of our money, and that means that your money that we're inviting to also put into the logistics will be safe. And so we act like a bit of a guarantee that where we put our money, you should feel free to put yours.
Mr. Rasool, investors, big business has been complaining particularly about infrastructure at local government level is deteriorating. We've seen big business moving their production away from some municipalities because of water infrastructure and road infrastructure deteriorating. How are you involved in any way with helping municipalities make sure that they don't dissuade investors from coming through, but actually plow their money? And these are not just international investors, but local ones as well.
So the DBSA's appetite for some risk is greater than the commercial banks. So we have a whole number, dozens of municipalities on our books with whom we not only provide finance, but we also provide development support. We also provide building support, so that project management support, so that we don't only send the money and not know where it's going, but we are able to track that money. We are able to ensure that it does the job of A, recreating good governance, and B, project management facilities so that nothing gets lost. C, procurement, because that's been a major problem, that we get involved in the procurement of it, and stabilization of basic services like water supply and energy supply and distribution, etc., etc. So I think that the DBSA has a whole conveyor belt of services rather than simply providing finances, because providing finances may add to the problem if you don't add the other attendant products that the DBSA has.
Briefly, one of the global risks that WEF has identified this year is the fact that more than 4 billion people around the world are going to the polls, to elections this year and some part of next year. And that has increased disinformation and misinformation. South Africa is one of those countries. Are there concerns from investors about where the country might go after this year's elections?
I think that there is uncertainty, And the uncertainty is that if South Africa is forced into coalition, will it go into a populist coalition with populist parties, or could it go into a technocratic coalition with opposition parties that it hasn't liked since the beginning of time? I think that there is a comfort that listening to the President's speech at the January the 8th statement that he made, that there seems to be a fighting spirit, there seems to be a realistic spirit that is coming through, that maybe the ANC can be a reliable partner for investors, that if not, in any coalition, the historical memory of the country over the last 30 years will have to play a decisive role, because no other party can do that on its own, and maybe there could be enough policy stability if we can go forward. So what people are looking for is not the choice of parties, it's for policy stability. Largely business as usual with some accelerated transformation.
They are looking for certainty indeed.
Absolutely.
And many investors here are asking, where is President Ramaphosa? But we will answer that question a little bit later. That was the DBSA chairman, Ebrahim Rasool, talking about how important it is that the elections are held and trustworthy when it comes to the election campaigning and the results themselves, as the speculation that we might enter into a coalition back home in South Africa.